There are chickens that most people have never heard of, not because they are gone, but because they don't fit into the modern food system we were taught to depend on. And once you see why, you start questioning everything about how food works. Over the last century, poultry farming changed completely. Efficiency became the goal: fast growth, uniform size, predictable output, industrial scalability. And in that transformation, something subtle happened. Many older chicken breeds, once the backbone of homesteads, rural farms and family food systems, slowly faded into the background. Not because they were weak, but because they were too self-sufficient for a system built around dependency. Because think about it, a bird that can feed itself, reproduce naturally, survive harsh weather, and still produce eggs or meat without heavy input, that is not just livestock. That is a self-sustaining system, and systems like that don't sell easily. And the first one on this list almost doesn't look real. Let's get into it. 1. Dong Tao, the rare giant of Vietnam. This one doesn't just look different, it looks almost impossible. This breed looks almost unreal. The Dong Tao is famous for its massive, thick legs, scaled and heavy, almost resembling armor, that can grow to the diameter of a human wrist. It originates from Vietnam, specifically from Dong Tao Commune in Hưng Yen Province, and has been tied to cultural prestige for centuries. These chickens were considered luxury food items, often served during Tet celebrations and significant ceremonial events, reserved for officials, royalty, and those of high social standing. A single Dong Tao chicken can sell for hundreds of dollars. A breeding pair significantly more. They are not practical backyard birds. They require experience, controlled conditions, and careful handling. Breeding is difficult. Hatch rates are lower than standard breeds. The hens can struggle to turn and incubate eggs due to the weight of their legs. But what they reveal goes far beyond farming logistics. A bird that once required ceremony to eat now sits next to a price tag in a supermarket. That shift, from sacred to commodity, from rare to routine, happened within a single century. And the Dong Tao, simply by existing as it still does, is a reminder of what that shift cost us. Chickens were not always cheap. Some were once rare, symbolic, reserved. That alone tells you how completely the relationship between people and food has changed. 2. Malay, the towering survivor. And now it gets even more extreme, because this one was built to survive where others fail. The Malay chicken is one of the tallest breeds in the world, standing upright like a sentinel. Roosters can reach up to 3 feet tall, lean, muscular, alert. But the Malay was never designed for production, it was designed for endurance. In conditions where most breeds struggle, high heat, limited feed, unreliable water access, the Malay continues functioning. It handles heat better than almost any other breed. It forages aggressively and efficiently, covering ground that more domesticated birds ignore. It requires minimal supplemental feeding in warm climates where vegetation and insects are available. Egg production is low, around 70 to 120 eggs per year. But that number misses the point entirely. The Malay is not a production bird. It is a resilience bird. In a stable, well-supplied environment, there are better options. But in conditions where systems break down, where feed becomes scarce, where weather becomes unpredictable, where infrastructure is unreliable, the Malay continues. It thrives precisely where other breeds fail. And that distinction matters more than a production chart ever will. 3. Jersey Giant, built for size and substance. Now we move from survival into pure size and substance. The Jersey Giant is exactly what the name suggests. The largest purebred chicken developed in the United States. Originally created in the 1800s with one bold idea: replace turkey-sized meat birds with something easier to raise. And it actually worked. Roosters, 13 to 15 pounds or more. Hens, 10 to 12 pounds. Heavy bone structure, broad, powerful frame. Egg production, around 150 to 200 eggs per year. Large brown eggs, reliable seasonal layers. And despite their size, they are calm, non-aggressive, easy to manage. But here's where reality shifted. They take time, 8 to 9 months to reach full size. Now compare that to industrial broilers, 6 to 8 weeks to market weight. That single difference changed everything. Jersey Giants weren't replaced because they failed. They were replaced because they were slow. But in a backyard system, that slow becomes long-term yield. A bird built for patience, not speed. Up to this point, everything has been about size and resilience. But now, the story shifts. 4. Brahma, the gentle giant. Because not every powerful bird looks aggressive. If size alone decided importance, the Brahma would still dominate poultry history. This is one of the largest chicken breeds ever developed. Originally refined between Asia and the West, it became a dominant dual-purpose bird in the 1800s and early 1900s. Roosters, 10 to 12 pounds, sometimes more historically. Hens, slightly smaller but still massively framed, heavy feathering all the way down to the feet, slow, powerful movement, calm presence. Now here's what makes them special. They are not just big, they are stable, calm temperament, low aggression, low stress behavior, and most importantly, they handle cold weather better than most breeds. While other chickens slow down or stop laying in winter, Brahmas often continue producing, around 150 to 200 eggs per year, medium to large brown eggs, consistent winter production when other breeds go quiet. But here's the catch. They grow slowly, and in industrial farming, time is cost. So a bird that takes months to mature gets pushed aside for one that reaches weight in weeks. But in a home system, that same slow growth becomes reliability, long life, low stress, predictability. A bird that behaves less like production and more like stability. 5. Australorp, the record holder. And this next one may be the most statistically unbelievable bird on the entire list. The Australorp is famous for one reason: a world record that has never been forgotten. In 1930, an Australorp hen laid 364 eggs in 365 days. Read that again. 364 eggs in a single year, under natural non-industrial conditions. That record brought global attention to the breed overnight, and it still stands as one of the most extraordinary animal performance achievements in agricultural history. Even without pushing for records, today's hens reliably produce 250 to 300 eggs per year in good environments. They are hardy across varying climates, calm enough for beginners, efficient foragers who supplement their own diet, cold weather tolerant without special care. But what makes Australorps genuinely powerful is their balance. High productivity without fragility, strong output without extreme management demands. Most high-producing modern breeds are delicate. Push them too hard, stress them slightly, change their environment, and output drops. The Australorp produces consistently without needing perfect conditions. That is not a coincidence. That is what centuries of natural selection looks like. A true all-rounder, and a breed whose record most people have never been told. If you're still watching, you're already seeing food systems differently than most people do. Subscribe now, because what comes next is where practicality meets independence. And hit like if this is changing how you think about farming. 6. Orpington, the farm favourite. Now we move from extraordinary to dependable. The Orpington is one of the most loved heritage breeds in the world. Soft, abundant feathers, calm temperament, almost pet-like in behaviour with familiar handlers. They are easy to manage, safe and gentle enough for children to handle, forgiving of beginner mistakes in care and routine. Egg production ranges from 200 to 280 eggs per year, large brown eggs, consistent across seasons with reasonable shelter. But what makes Orpingtons genuinely powerful is their foraging capacity. In good conditions, access to pasture, open ground, natural vegetation, they can source 60 to 70% of their own diet through foraging alone. That number is significant. It means in a well-managed backyard system, feed costs are reduced dramatically. Input dependency drops, and the bird begins functioning less like livestock you manage, and more like a participant in the system around it. They are not extreme in any single area, but they are reliable across all of them. Production, temperament, foraging. Management ease, cold tolerance. The Orpington doesn't dominate any category. It simply never fails in any of them. And for someone building a long-term backyard system, that kind of quiet reliability is worth more than a single exceptional trait. 7. Langshan, the quiet forager. This one is quieter, but don't mistake quiet for weak. Langshans are elegant, tall birds with dark feathers that shimmer green in direct sunlight. Calm, quiet, steady. And when you know their history, that quiet presence carries a different weight. The Langshan was one of the first chicken breeds imported from China to Europe, arriving in England in the 1870s and causing a sensation among Victorian poultry enthusiasts who had never seen anything like them. Their height, their carriage, the deep luster of their plumage, they were immediately sought after. And beyond appearance, they performed. Given space and access to open ground, Langshans forage efficiently and reduce feed dependency significantly. They cover ground methodically, finding what other breeds miss. Egg production sits around 150 to 200 eggs per year. Dark brown shells, sometimes described as having a plum-like tint. Consistent laying cycles across seasons. But their biggest strength is what they don't demand. They don't need intensive management. They adapt across climates without significant support. They balance production with a level of independence that most modern breeds have had engineered out of them. A true low-input breed, one that arrived in Victorian England as a curiosity and has quietly outlasted almost every trend that came after it. 8. Cochin, the feathered mother hen. And this is where the system begins to sustain itself. Cochins are impossible to ignore, not because of size, but because of fluff. They look oversized, almost cloud-like, with thick feathers covering even their feet. But their real value isn't appearance, it's behavior. Cochins are among the most reliably broody hens in all of poultry. When they go broody, they commit fully. They sit on eggs with consistency that other breeds cannot match. They protect chicks with an aggression that surprises people who expect gentleness. They will accept and raise eggs that aren't theirs, from other hens, other breeds, even other species. This made them extraordinarily valuable before incubators existed, before electricity, before artificial heat, before any machine could replicate what a hen does naturally over 21 days of unbroken sitting. The Cochin did it instinctively. Every time. Egg production is moderate, around 150 to 180 eggs per year, but their real role was never just eggs. It was reproduction, it was continuity, it was keeping flocks alive naturally, without machines, without intervention, without cost, and that changes everything about how you see them. Because Cochins don't just produce eggs, they sustain generations. 9. Heritage Cornish, the original foundation. And this final breed explains how everything changed. Most people only know Cornish chickens through industrial meat production. The Cornish cross, the white, fast-growing broiler found in virtually every supermarket, carries Cornish genetics at its foundation. But the original heritage Cornish is something entirely different. It is muscular, but proportionally built. Broad-chested but not structurally compromised, slow-growing but with a quality of meat that industrial versions cannot replicate, capable of natural reproduction, which the modern Cornish cross is not. The heritage Cornish was originally valued for meat quality and structural density, not speed, not volume, not scalability. The modern broiler came later, when Cornish genetics were crossed with faster-growing breeds to create something that gains weight faster than any bird in history. The result? Rapid growth, high feed conversion, heavy dependency on controlled environments, inability to reproduce naturally, lifespans of weeks, not years. The heritage Cornish still exists, and it represents a dividing line between a bird bred for quality within a natural system and a bird engineered for output within an industrial one. That line is not just about chickens, it is about the fundamental shift in how we decided to relate to the animals that feed us. Now step back and look at this clearly. When you look at all 9 of these breeds together, one pattern becomes unmistakable. Independence. Every single one of them comes from a time when chickens were not managed as industrial units, but as living systems embedded inside households and communities. They foraged for themselves. They adapted to seasons without assistance. They reproduced naturally without machines. They survived with minimal input, and sometimes almost none. Modern poultry systems moved in a different direction. Speed, uniformity, predictability, scale. Neither philosophy is without value, neither system is entirely wrong, but they represent two very different answers to the same question. What is a chicken for? One answer is output. The other answer is participation in a living system. And maybe the real question is not which answer is better, but what we lose when we forget that the second answer ever existed. Because sometimes, progress is not only about what we gain, it is also about what quietly disappears. And the breeds in this video never disappeared completely. They are still here, waiting, not to be rescued, but to be remembered. Comment, just one. The first breed you would add to your system, and why? Because that answer tells you something important, not just about farming, but about the kind of system you want to be part of. Subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden systems behind what we eat, because once you see this, you don't just look at chickens differently, you look at food differently.